Justice. Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Cabinet today, and welcome to anybody who's viewing from home. We'll start by just introducing Cabinet, and other elected members and officers here present will be introduced as they enter the discussions this afternoon. I'm Peter Fox. I'm Leader of the Council. To my left,
Bob Greenland, Deputy Leader.
Phil Hobson, Deputy Leader.
Phil Murphy, Cabinet Member for Resources.
Councillor Brian Jones, Cabinet Member for Highways and Waste.
Giles Howard, Cabinet Member for Environment, Public Service and Housing.
okay, our opposition leaders, do you want to introduce yourself?
Dimitri Petruni, Leader of the Labour Group.
Good afternoon, Cabinet. Councillor Simon Howarth, Independent Leader.
Thanks very much, and welcome everybody. Good to see you. It's a busy week. Apparently there's something on tomorrow. I know a lot of colleagues here are probably feeling a little bit tired and got sore feet as well, I expect. But today, Cabinet, bit of council business, really important agenda again. Can we move on to apologies? And I have one apology from Councillor Jeff Burrows. Declarations of interest. Any declarations at this point, please? No. If you find any, please declare them out loud and fill in the performer as usual. Item 3, that is to consider reports from the Select Committee, none forward, and then we're going to item 4, little 1, and the first item is Children Services Development Report. In Councillor Burrows' absence, I'll lead this, but I'm pleased today we have Tracy Jels, Head of Service, and Chief Officer Simon Birch with us, who no doubt will be able to give us more detail on the depth of the report if needed. The report before us is to seek additional resources to ensure that children's services are able to meet present demand and continue to develop to manage future demand more effectively. The report also updates us all on the progress in children's services, which has been considerable over the years. I'll lead us straight into the recommendations because they obviously outline the key purpose of the report today. That Cabinet are being asked to agree an increase in the children's services base budget of 300,000 to meet those current demands as detailed in the depth of the report, which we'll come to no doubt. And that also Cabinet approves the establishment of 5 additional permanent posts, which is equivalent to 4.4 whole-time equivalents, and those are permanent social worker posts at a full year cost of 183,000. And that the increase required in the base budget as a result of the recommendations I just mentioned will be included as a pressure in the medium-term financial plan from 2016-17, and that one-off savings in 2015 will be identified. And I'd like to add also here, and reported to Cabinet at their next meeting, to mitigate the pressure in the current year. And finally, that the Cabinet approved the appointment of 5 temporary social worker posts at a cost of 322,000, and those to be funded from reserves for a period of 18 months. I'll give some of the key things we're obviously looking at here. In the key issues, then, work has progressed in children's services over the past year to make changes to service delivery. These have included a greater focus on child-centred approach, as well as implementing a number of practice changes. And in 3.2, in addition, the service has been tasked with ascertaining the current and future needs of the service to further enhance service delivery to children. And you'll see in there some of the work that has been going on throughout the year. You'll note there in 3.4 some of the work that's been going on regarding inspections. We had an inspection for a couple of weeks in November, and also the fostering inspection which took place during that period as well. The report has been through senior leadership team back in March, and I know there's already work going on to put if we agree today how we can take these positions forward. In 4.2, you'll recognise that there is a real evidence that the demand in the service requirements is growing, and significantly, and you can read more about referrals there as well, and I'll obviously invite officers to talk to those points if need be. And it's interesting and frightening really the level of the nature of the referrals and how they're escalating the nature of those, and really does need some focus, and also the threats that are being faced by staff, and also the recognition of the casework load that individuals are having. And this is a lengthy report, but needed necessarily to be, because it gives that depth of information and understanding to help us understand why there is a need for us to reinvest or invest further on top of what we currently have already pledged to address this going forward. I'm going to stop there and open it up, but obviously invite our officers in to talk to specific points if needs be. So, colleagues, have you anything you wish to add at this point? Yeah, Councillor Haggie-Payne.
Thank you very much, Leader. And I very much support this report, and I can understand the rationale behind it. And I just wondered if it might be possible for perhaps Simon or Tracy just to explain the significance of the extra social worker for the special guardianship orders. I know that you've explained it to Cabinet, but I think it might be worth expanding on that and to see the relevance of this particular post, and also the relevance of the special guardianship orders and how those have come into being at this time.
Yeah, thank you. Tracy, if you could, that would be great. Thank you.
Special guardianship orders came into practice a few years ago. The purpose of a special guardianship order is for a child to be placed with that carer long term. It could be an extended family member, or for example it could be a foster carer, and an assessment process takes place for that to be handled, but then it goes back to court for the court to then grant the special guardianship order to that family member. If a special guardianship order is granted, it means that that child would cease to be a looked after child. So all the statutory visits, all the looked after reviews, those sorts of things that would normally take place for those children would end, and it would be, in inverted commas, more of a normal childhood for that child because they would be long term with that family. I have to emphasise that not every child will have the opportunity to have family members go forward for a special guardianship order, because we do an assessment similar to those that we do for foster carers that looks at the background and the lifestyle of that potential carer, so it's quite a rigorous process as well. But if it was to go ahead, the difference is it's about, on average, about £12,000 a year for a special guardianship order, whereas the average for a looked after child is over about 43,000 per year. So there's quite a cost saving for the local authority, but over and above that, it's actually a better outcome for the child. So the reason that we put the special guardianship order post in is currently there are no because they cease to be a looked after child and they're not a local authority foster carer, there isn't any support in place, because along with these children may have attachment disorders or may have particular needs as they grow up, which we won't know about when we place those children there. That the purpose then is of this worker would be to be able to support those people that have special guardianship orders, link them into relevant training with foster carers or alongside the service, in fact, so that we can support them ongoing to reduce the risk of those placements, those special guardianship placements breaking down. Does that answer the question?
That's really helpful. Thank you, Tracy. Okay. Cabinet members, any? Giles Howard?
Yeah, thanks, Lee. There's a couple of brief questions. I wonder what the availability of qualified workers was like. I think that if I remember correctly, in the past, that the market's been quite volatile, and you've had to make market payments, or certainly other authorities might. And also the fixed term post for the 18 months, I wasn't entirely clear, and perhaps that's my own fault. Those will be people will be employed directly rather than through agency, so the reliance on agency workers will be a lot less, I assume.
To answer the first question, we have in the past had difficulty recruiting social workers to children's services, but what we've been doing over the past year, because of capacity demands, we currently have 4 agency workers. 1 or 2 of them may want to stay with us for a contract of 18 months, but we also have student social workers that are coming to the end of their training. We have to balance newly qualified along with experience because of the work that we do in the service, but we are hopeful that we will be able to recruit. And sorry, I can't remember your second question.
The second one was about the agency costs. Will there be an ongoing reliance on those?
No, we're hoping to reduce the agency costs once we've recruited to those 4 posts. Those 4 posts will then no longer be agency cost, so they will be cheaper per week to have a worker in post. The reason they're for 18 months is because during that time we're doing the work alongside those business cases that you have in your report today, but I'm also working with Will McLean with partnership and engagement to look at the prevention agenda for the local authority as well, to hope to reduce and make sure we've got the right services in place to stop children coming into children's services. So I didn't want to then put all those posts in place as a permanent need when in fact we don't know that they're a permanent need.
Thank you. Thank you, Tracy. I think, again, what you shared there highlighted in the resource implications, just for us to understand the additional cost of the authority of continuing with agency workers over somebody we would employ ourselves. You could almost argue this is investing to save, which is welcome, whilst addressing the additional pressure we have, and really quite serious figures, that additional uplift of employee agency staff. So the sooner we can move away from that, the better. Colleagues, any further? Obviously, as Tracy just alluded, business case does lie below the quality impact assessment and gives them a deeper reflection on the importance of this. Councillor Petruni.
Yes, totally support any money that improves children's services and looks after the children that most need it. I just want one quick question. How many staff have we lost in that department over the last 3-4 years for whatever reason? Do we know?
I'll just start with Tracy's doing the actual maths, because that's, I mean, children's service is a volatile service, both because of the nature of the market, which Councillor Howard mentioned, but also genuinely because people are often coming in as newly qualified, people are moving on to other roles and so on. So there is quite a lot of movement. Tracy, do you want to hazard a guess at a number?
Very approximate off the top of my head, there's about 9 workers. Some of those have left for career progression. Some of those have left because they have moved and relocated themselves. And I have to say that very few have left because they're burnt out by the profession, which isn't the picture in a lot of other local authorities here. Local authorities are very supportive of children's services, so we've put a lot in place to support workers to do quite a difficult job at times, but I think it's about 9. Councillor.
Thank you for that, Tracy. Councillor Howarth.
Yeah, just a couple of quick questions there. My first one is, while we're going to increase the team here significantly, have we got the resources in place to house the team, and how will that be housed? There's reference to where you work from, having a team, another 10, perhaps 12 people in there. There may be the odd agency as well. It is all about a teamwork here, and where will that be, and the extra costs on that. And also, I mean, I do congratulate you on recognising that we need to do something here, and we are going to make a decision, the Cabinet make a decision in moving that forward, because if we don't do that, perhaps we could run into some problems which could cost us quite a lot of money. And we all know from press releases over the last few years how some authorities have run into difficulties. Now we are recognising that we may have to do something here, so we are doing it quickly. So it's only one question: make sure we have the team in place, where they're going to be housed, and will that be in the best position for what you want, really.
The team, we co-located the team last summer into Mega. So we have one side of the top floor of Mega. We work on an agile basis in children's services anyway, because obviously we have children open to us across the county. So we do have capacity in our current environment. There is cost of, for example, laptops, but some people will, so for example, the agency workers already have a laptop, so that laptop and that mobile phone will be given to the new workers, so we're not having to resource all of those posts straight off. There will be a few that we will need laptops for, but we do have capacity to house them at Mega, yes.
Have we any programme for the release of Mega? That was where I was getting to there. Is Mega in the programme to be retained? Because we can have these teams and build these teams up, but if we have the capacity there to put them somewhere, if Mega isn't in the long-term plan, that's one reason why I did ask the question, if anybody could answer that.
Thank you, Simon. Obviously, we need to look very carefully at our estate and all of our buildings and everywhere we're operating from. We very clearly will be looking at our assets in the Mega area in time, how we best use those, utilise them, or utilise the additional resource which will come available in this premises in due course. As you know, we own a significant piece of this estate which is currently leased to college. There are a whole pile of things in the mix which we have to be conscious of. So there's no direct immediate decision around the future of Mega. However, as I said, we'll be looking at all of our accommodation to make sure we're getting the best value out of what we've got. I have no fear. I think, as Tracy said, this is a very agile team. It's not situated in buildings, it's situated out with young people and foster carers, and we just make sure that those staff will always be supported in the way that they need to be. Okay, I'm going to move back to I won't read through all the recommendations there again as I started off, but you'll see the recommendations there. The only one which, as I say, is slightly changed in 2.3, the recommendation, there is the insertion there, and I'll read 2.3 again because there is that extra bit in it. That the increase required in the base budget as a result of recommendations 2.1 and 2.2 will be included as a pressure in the medium-term financial plan from 2016-17, and that one-off savings in 15-16 will be identified and reported to Cabinet at their next meeting to mitigate the pressure in the current year. Okay, just added a little bit. So recommendations then on block, all in favour? Thank you very much. Thank you, Tracy. Okay, we'll take us on to the next item, and this is the Caldicot Town Team funding. Councillor Phil Hobson.
Thank you, Leader. Today's report in front of you is to get Cabinet approval to agree the release of £25,210 of Section 106 developer contributions emanating from and received from ASDA to progress 3 town centre improvement projects to be delivered by the Caldicot Town Team. At the meeting of the Severn Side Programme Board on March 24th, the Town Team submitted 3 business cases to seek funding support for the following projects that form part of the action plan for Caldicot Town Centre. First was the Caldicot Visioning Project at £22,000. This will be a report that will has the support of all stakeholders and aims to attract retail and development interest and investment into the town centre. The resulting document will inform planning policy and provide a statement of ambition, providing direction and confidence to residents, retailers and property owners. The second is application for improvements to Caldicot Market. This is a total of 1,410 towards the costs of piloting improvements to the existing market offer in Caldicot and by adding specialist market attractors, therefore increasing footfall, local business investment and providing a more robust future for the markets in the town. Specifically, it's proposed to pilot arts and crafts, gardening and international food markets in the 3 months to June 2015. The third, the Town Centre Wi-Fi project, is a request for £1,800 to cover the year's running costs incurred by 10 businesses participating in installing superfast broadband equipment that will encourage business interest in digital marketing opportunities but also to provide free public Wi-Fi connectivity throughout the whole of Caldecott Town Centre. The applications are referred today to Cabinet for their approval. Officers Kelly Byrne and Colin Phillips are on hand to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Again, it's great to see the town team coming forward with ideas which will enhance their area. This is really seeing that pilot, that whole place approach to coming to fruition, and thanks to the project board for their consideration as well of these initiatives. They seem to be sound initiatives, things which can only enhance the area, and obviously the local businesses are very keen also on that last one, the Wi-Fi initiative, and so basically got my endorsement. Colleagues, anybody wish to add? Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Leader. This is absolutely vital for Caldecott. The offer there definitely needs looking at. We've got a very enthusiastic team with the town team, and the project board is always well attended. There's a lot of impetus there, and we need to do everything we can to encourage it, particularly in the short term, so they can get some results.
Anybody else? Yeah. Councillor Greenland.
I also welcome this report. This is obviously a direct benefit of bringing ASDA into the town. This provides money to take these important projects forward. Obviously, the other benefits that we will hope to get from having ASDA is the increased footfall, and for that we need the completion of the link between the town and the supermarket. But this, together with the these projects, together with that improved footway, will, I'm sure, begin to see the rejuvenation of Caldecott, and we must welcome this. And I watch with interest to see the effect that these schemes will have.
Okay, any further? Remiss of me not to mention, you can see there in the consultees that Councillor Eason, local member, has obviously shared some views of how he feels the money should be spent in Appendix 5 as well, just so that in fairness to him. Okay, colleagues, Councillor Petruni.
Support all money that goes into Caldecott Town Centre to improve the town centre. It's much needed. Just a query, this is not going to be another report that just goes on the shelf and ignored, and we commission another report 2-3 years down the line outlining another vision for the town. Is this actually going to be worked upon?
Colin, would you like to respond to that?
Thank you, Chair. I think anybody in Caldecott as a town that's attended the surveys that have been undertaken is of the same opinion that the improvements that can be made to the link to the town, accessibility to the town, are really secondary to the key problem in the town, and that's the offer within the town centre itself. And that's why the visioning and identifying what are the barriers to Caldecott moving forward are an integral part of the work proposed in the visioning brief and development plan for Caldecott. As part of the development of that brief and that vision and identification of the problems, it will be essential that the consultants really get under the skin of the town, and by that I mean discussing with the existing landowners, the existing retailers in the town as to what the issues are, and potentially with retailers who aren't coming to the town that would typically come to the town on the back of big supermarket developments such as Asda. What are the barriers to them moving into the town? So we would see, as the report indicates and the town team business case indicates, that there are many dimensions to the emerging report. One is to give a statement of ambition, a degree of confidence to existing businesses and landowners in the town. It will also be essential in providing planning with a reference document, potentially supplementary planning guidance document, that they can consider applications in the future for potential investment on the back of. So it will have many dimensions, but at the end of the day, the success of any emerging report will depend upon the consensus and support it has in the rolling out of that particular report. And that's a key process that we will be supporting the town team and the consultants that are employed by the town team to actually deliver a report that doesn't collect dust on the shelf but is actually implemented upon.
Thank you, Colin. That's very reassuring. Councillor Howarth?
Yeah, may I just ask on the basis of his, yeah, they're really good schemes, and the two small ones at the end there, where are we with that long term then? Because, you know, I mean, that is vital, and we have talked about making sure we are in the IT world and making sure that we enter into it in a way. So have we looked at apps or anything for Caldicot? Have we looked at all different things as reference to, I see there's 12 businesses signed up, and we're probably taking 10 on board here, and they're going to pay a fixed sum. Where is our town council in all this as well? Because once this money goes, are they on board with this? I know they're not mentioned in here anywhere, and I know they're integral part of delivering in that town. Are they part of this? Because I can't see anything in there reference to them being supportive and actually a partner in all this, even though, because, sorry for keep saying that, if in 2 years' time, when the 106 monies isn't there or whatever, and we want these initiatives to continue, these people are going to somewhere and say, well, any chance of having a few pounds or whatever? And I don't see anything in there with them. Are they on board and supportive of what we're trying to do here?
Yeah, thank you, Simon. We know town council members are part of the project board, but I think that's a fair challenge. Colin, have you got any feedback on that?
Yes, to answer in two parts. In respect of the apps that Councillor Howarth mentions, that's certainly part of the report that the town team, on the back of the broadband infrastructure and public Wi-Fi, really want to work with local businesses to develop front-end applications that provide discounts and so on. So that's very much on the radar. I think Councillor Howarth identifies an issue, a dynamic within Caldicot Town Centre that we are keen to work with the town team to overcome, and that is, as with any new partnership arrangement emerging within an area or within a close confines of a town centre, there are very often overlaps with roles and responsibilities of existing democratic structures. I think it's fair to say that the involvement of the town team and the relationship of the town team to the existing structures such as the town council has been a little bit arm's length, if we're honest about it, over the past year, and that's certainly something that in the coming year the town team will need to overcome to maximise the impact of these projects and other emerging projects in the future for the benefit of the town. There are indications of that happening through, for example, the events where the town team work closely with the town council on the fireworks night and on the events at the castle. So there are the beginnings of good working relationships, and an individual within the town council has been involved in helping with some of the wording of the visioning brief that's attached to the cabinet paper. So we very much understand that there is a tension there that's not unexpected, and we need to find ways of working with the town council and the town team to overcome those for the betterment of the town going forward.
Yeah, thank you, Colin. And I think being a pilot here and in Abergavenny, we're going to learn a lot as we go, and when we roll out these initiatives across the county, you know, perhaps we can preempt some of those tensions and help deal with them a bit earlier. But at the end of the day, this is empowering people in the communities to do stuff that we may not be able to do. And that's exactly what we're all about in this organisation, trying to find different ways of preserving locally accessible services and doing things in a different way. So I'll move us to the recommendations there. Then 2.1 to agree the release of £25,210 of 106 contributions received from ASDA to progress 3 town centre improvement projects to be delivered by the Caldicot Town team, to phase the release of funding relative to progress evidenced across all proposed projects, to phase the release of funding in respect to the visioning project in arrears based upon receipt of staged invoicing. All in favour of those? Thank you very much. That's carried. Thank you, Colin. On to another important report, Business Improvement District, Abergavenny. Councillor Bob Greenand.
Thank you, Leader. Cabinet members will be well aware of the proposals for the Business Improvement District in Abergavenny. We've had the reports before, and we've now moved a stage further, and the purpose of this report is to bring you up to date with what is happening and what might happen if we get a successful vote from the businesses in Abergavenny. Business improvement districts were first established in the UK in 2004, and since that date there have been 180 such districts. I think there are 3 in Wales at the moment, and there is the potential for another 11 in the pipeline. And indeed, they are for a fixed limited time, 5 years, and some have actually reapplied again to take forward a further 5-year stint. So it's clear from that that this is a successful scheme that has been introduced. And we are looking to the businesses in Abergavenny for their approval of the of this initiative. It would be funded by a contribution, a levy from the businesses within the defined area, and it would be looking to, on average, ask them for £1 a day for the period of 5 years. Now, that doesn't sound very much, and that'll be what 70% of the businesses pay, but in total it will bring in an amount of over £1 million over the 5-year period. And indeed it will give them the opportunity to get match funding for that as well. So the amount of money that could be put into the town in the period of the 5 years could be really substantial and enough to make some real improvements to the town. But it is an initiative that came originally from our whole place plan, and then in fact from the Welsh Government's Vibrant and Viable Places, which we applied for. This has come again following on from that, and it is something which I think we could all welcome. But it is not for us to take this forward. It is for the businesses to decide themselves whether they are going to take this. The idea is that it will increase the footfall and the spend in the town, and it will enhance the town as a destination and provide a quality environment which people can access the town centre easily and efficiently. And so it will really take the town forward and give that regeneration that we all would like to see, not only in Abergavenny, but in our other towns as well. But this is the only town at the moment that we're talking about. There are 421 properties within the BID district, and together they would contribute, if this goes forward and is voted for, 208,000 per annum. And I think that the decision on this is for those businesses. It is not for us. But we are supporting and have been supporting the process to date. But there will be a vote by the businesses between June and July. It won't be managed by this council because of our commitments to the general election, but will be undertaken by the, what's it called? The, sorry? Electoral Reform Society, thanks very much. And it will be for them to conduct that vote. Now, there are a number of direct consequences to the council for moving this forward, and you will find in the recommendations that there are 8 in total, and I think we need therefore to understand what those are. First of all, we have a number of businesses within the area ourselves, and if the vote is successful, that will have an effect and a cost for this council of around about £10,000 per annum for the duration of the 5 years. We are minded, and Cabinet is asked for approval, that we should actually vote ourselves, as we are entitled to as the those paying the business rates for these properties, to vote in support of the bid in the ballot that is to take place. And to do that, we are asking through the report to delegate the authority to the head of commercial and people development. We are also being asked to fund the cost of the ballot, which is set to be £2,100. But if the ballot is successful, then this will be recharged to the company that will be formed as a result of this going forward. If, however, the ballot comes up with a no, then that will have to be a cost that is borne by the council. In addition to that, if the bid is successful, then we are asking Cabinet for approval to fund £75,000 or 35% of the first year's bid levy, but that will be repayable once those levies have been paid. And the other thing we're asking is delegated authority to the head of legal services and in consultation with the leader to sign the necessary operating agreement that would exist between the council and the bid delivery mechanism. Now, we have Kath Fallon with us today, and she has been very much involved with the bid and indeed is the author of the report. So I'm sure Kath may want to add something at this time, possibly.
Just really to say that a steering group has been set up amongst the businesses in Abergavenny. It's moving forward at a really good pace at the moment. They're gaining momentum. Ballot, as we say, is due to take place in June, and we're hopeful for a successful vote. For us, it really does give a huge opportunity for Abergavenny, not only in terms of the income that will come in through the bid and the opportunities that presents, but also an opportunity to use some of that money to draw down additional funds, bearing in mind it's what we would term as clean money, so it can be used to draw in European funding. So we would hope that it does go ahead with a view that other towns in the county may well look to do something similar in the future. They've been very successful elsewhere. Certainly Swansea is extremely successful, and various others, Reading, for example. So it does really present huge opportunities for the town.
Thank you, Kath, and thanks, Bob, for taking us through this. Really, another exciting opportunity for Abergavenny. The leverage opportunities are really exciting on what they can drive into that area if the bid is successful. And I mean, we must stress this is a ballot of all businesses. The question I was going to ask: somebody who didn't want to be in it, are they legally bound by this if it's a yes vote?
If it's a yes vote, majority yes vote, then yes, they are. Yeah, so it's very much within the business's interest to vote. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Kath. Right, colleagues, Councillor Hackey-Payne.
Thank you very much. Two questions. I just wondered how this fitted with the other Cabinet report we had recently about the money from the Welsh Government that we were being, I think it was about £1 million that was coming to Abergavenny to regenerate businesses. And I just wondered if the two would fit together, because there's an opportunity there. And the other areas that have taken up this scheme, I just wondered if you'd looked at, obviously they've been successful, but if there were any lessons to be learned. They're further ahead than we are, and I just wondered what those were.
The Town Centre Loan Fund is a different fund, but does actually come through the same department in Welsh Government. There are opportunities certainly for the two schemes to work together, and also with Team Abergavenny in terms of the town team activities. Our role really has been to facilitate, to ensure that there are key messages within each, so everyone knows what everybody else is doing to avoid any duplication. So yes, there will be opportunities going forward. In terms of other business improvement districts, Hereford's has just gone through. So there is a trip going from the Abergavenny team to Hereford, and also linking into Shrewsbury as well, to see what the opportunities are going to be going forward, really. But it's very much on a town-by-town basis. So although there are lessons to be learned, it's very much about how Abergavenny itself wants to spend the funds and how they can move forward. But they will learn lessons along the way, I'm sure. But we're hoping that the trips that are being set up where they're working with the groups themselves will make a big difference, really, and help us avoid some trip-ups there.
Yeah, thank you. Councillor Green?
Can I just add to the point that you raised, Leader, on those businesses that might not be in favour? First of all, every one of the 421 businesses will have been contacted and will be made absolutely aware of the circumstances and their commitment to this if this ballot is successful. The second thing to note is that the ballot will only be successful if there is a majority of businesses vote yes. That's the first point. And the second point is if the rateable value of the businesses that vote yes exceeds the rateable value of the businesses that vote no. So those two criteria have got to be met to make this a successful bid.
Thanks, that's helpful. Colleagues, anything else? Councillor Bertuni?
Yeah, quite a few questions just niggling in my mind, so it might be in the report, but I haven't come across it yet. First one about the bid itself. It's a bit increased footfall spend, everyone wants that, but what are we talking about? We're talking about getting new businesses in, we're talking about more infrastructure. I mean, what are we actually talking about? Because would businesses presently in Abergavenny like to fund I don't know, I suppose, schemes that bring in more businesses, more competition that might be in the same field they are. I'm just wondering, is there a conflict of interest here? I don't know what, but it might not mean that. It might mean just infrastructure. I don't know. So I want to ask that. On the voting, so presumably, 51% vote in favour and 49% don't, then it's the 49% have to pay the levy, presumably. On the rateable value, that's really interesting because presumably if bigger businesses didn't want to, and all the smaller businesses voted for it, but on the rateable value, the bigger businesses held the sway. That could stop all smaller traders getting the levy, presumably. Also, I noticed the map's been changed. We don't include the train station anymore. I'm just wondering why, because it would seem obvious that you would have the train station included within it. I'm just wondering why. And I'll leave it there for now.
Okay, thank you. Kelly? Or Kath? Whoever.
In terms of increasing footfall, clearly the more people that we encourage into the town, the more they will spend within the businesses locally. And therefore that will contribute to the economy of the town. We are looking for a mix of businesses to ensure that we've got the right mix, and that's what we'll be looking at. In terms of the actual business plan, there is a summary business plan within the actual report, but also the final business plan will be due out within the next week or so it'll become a lot clearer then in terms of what the opportunities are going to be. In terms of the boundaries actually was initially set in terms of looking at where the retail area was, because it's supposed to be a high street business improvement district. The changes have been made in consultation with the steering group, which is a good representation of all the different businesses within Abergavenny. So the reasons in terms of the train station not being involved, they've actually looked at all the businesses there, looked at what the opportunities are, and they've made those decisions. It has been a moving feast, so clearly as things have developed and they've talked to businesses, they become a lot clearer in terms of where the boundaries are, what the opportunities are. So really it's a matter of looking at the final business plan, which is literally just being finalised at the moment, and then taking an opportunity from there, really.
Have we got a general flavour of how the majority of businesses are feeling about it, or is it quite a mixed perspective? You know, I'd thought most people would see the opportunities this can can give them. Have we got any indication at this point?
Strangely, it's a 50-50 at the moment. We're spending a lot of time door knocking. Some people are saying they still haven't heard about it yet. They've had postcards, they've had various different, there've been consultations taking place, business plans. Clearly the ones that are in favour will have the new business plans just directly posted to them because they've indicated they're in favour. However, those that are unsure will actually have visits so they can discuss any concerns, and similarly just to make sure that people actually understand what it is they're voting for and how important it is that they do vote. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Howarth? No? Okay. Right, now these recommendations, there is a mass of them here in 2.8, and I'm not going to read all of those out. I think Councillor Greenland captured the essence of the key strands in there. Members, they are before you. I'm going to ask you to vote on those en bloc. All in favour? Thank you very much. Thank you, Kath. And we wish the process well, and I'm sure businesses will do the right thing, and there's a real opportunity there for them. Okay, we'll move on then to an update on Apprentice. Councillor Bob Greenland.
Thank you, Leader, again. And as you said, this is an update report to let you know what is happening with the Apprentice scheme, which was launched in 2012 as a partnership between Mellon Homes, our community interest company, CMC Squared, and the Construction Industry Training Board. All the details are in the report. I think it's done extremely well. It's a scheme which not only covers Monmouthshire, but in fact it covers the whole of South East Wales, so that most of the apprentices that have come forward and the training that has been offered is for those areas. But that is within the area in which our business interests lie, not just within the very narrow confines of Monmouthshire. And of course, we would expect there to be an upsurge in the building trades industry. As the economy improves, we would certainly see within Monmouthshire itself the building of 2 new secondary schools, which will also be taking on apprentices as part of their contractual agreement. And Apprentice will be able to place people into positions where they can get the skills and the qualifications that will allow them to move forward within the construction industry. So the report's in front of it. It's self-explanatory, but Kath Fallon, again, is the author of the report, and so I'm sure she'll be able to answer any detailed questions that members may have.
Thank you. Anything you want to add at this point, Kath? No? Okay. Great. It's a great scheme. I mean, looking at it from the young person's perspective, how this really gives them a breadth of opportunity and experience, which can be captured whilst being employed by Apprentice in this situation. I think it's a real opportunity to give some multi-skilled individuals, create some multi-skilled individuals. Whilst there's not a huge number from Monmouth in particular, I believe this number is additional to those that you referenced just now with the school builds. But it is something which is operating across South East Wales, and it has to be positive. All of those, that skill base is wider than just Monmouthshire. The skill base we'll need for the future will draw from a wider region. So thanks for the update, really helpful. Colleagues? Yeah, Councillor Hackett-Payne and Councillor Howard.
Just a very quick comment. It's in 4.5 and it states about the 70 apprentices that are undergoing the programme at the moment, and 10 of these are Monmouthshire residents, and it says that 4 have completed the programme and gained full-time employment. Does that mean that the others have dropped out, or are they still completing would you expect employment at the end of this? And I support this fully, and especially with the 21st Century Schools programme, where the contractors have offered apprenticeships as well, and various other schemes to ensure that the county of Monmouthshire benefits from these building programmes.
Yes, we would hope for employment at the end. The ones that have gone through and have completed the programme are clearly in employment. We have details of all their names, the different trades that they've gone into, whether it's carpentry, plumbing, electricians, etc. Given the age of the apprentices, sometimes we do lose some people along the way. They choose it's not a career for them. However, the opportunity with the 21st Century Builds programme is really big for the scheme, bearing in mind there is something called community benefits written into the actual contracts with Interserve, so they know that they need to take on Monmouthshire people to help build Monmouthshire schools, and for me that's just great. It's growing from strength to strength. It took a little while to get going, purely because of the way that the college years work. We started the company in November, but the college intake is clearly September, but the recruitment starts in February, so we sort of lost in terms of the 4 years, in terms of the full school year. So we're starting to learn now we need to recruit a lot earlier. The other issue in Monmouthshire is the fact that we don't have a college that specialises in construction trades, so we do need to bear that in mind. So because they have to be linked into a college, there is also an issue of transport and getting our apprentices back and forth off site. So it's something that we're addressing all the time, really, but I think given the 21st Century Schools Build programme, that will make a massive difference to where we go from here. Also, I just wanted to say that we're not just going to carry on with construction. We are looking at other opportunities. We're looking at digital apprenticeships. We're also looking at care. And also with in Abergavenny and the focus on hospitality and food, we're looking at that as well. So that's something that we're going to take forward. But at the moment, we're purely, it's construction at the minute, but that's not where it's going to stop.
That's really good news. I like that. Councillor Howard.
Thank you. Yeah, I think my comments concur with those of the leader and Liz, and particularly since that at one point apprenticeships seem to have become a pretty rare species. The question I had, you've part answered, given the transport issues and location of colleges. Do you feel that the scheme is being flagged to potential apprentices sufficiently at the right place and at the right time? And do we know, or do we think that the number of Monmouthshire participants corresponds proportionally with those who've got that level 1 qualification or above? And if there was a mad rush, and again, given what you said about the 21st century schools, how flexible is it? If there was a great demand all of a sudden, can the industry take a big whack in apprentices if that was the case?
It is a flexible industry, and the beauty with Apprentice is it's a shared apprenticeship scheme, so the advisory panel that we have with our companies that sits alongside the board of directors allows us to flex accordingly. We're aware of what their needs are, and we can fine-tune things. In terms of apprentices, I think there are sufficient. However, we are doing a lot more promotion locally, and there's skills fairs and careers fairs that we make sure we attend to raise the profile. But there has been some very recent research, and the conclusion made there is a need to explain to young people what the construction industry trades are. It's not just electrician, you could be a glazier, a dredger, etc., etc. So it's raising the profile right across the board, really, and the opportunities that exist. So proportionally, we do feel it's probably about right at the minute in terms of where the opportunities have been, but I think it will change with the 21st Century Skills programme.
Okay. Anybody else? Councillor Petruni?
Yes, thank you. You say it's about getting to the right people. Why have we gone to schools, our own schools? Have we spoken to that'd be the perfect age group, presumably. And also, how many children, I know we're building a lot of houses in Monmouthshire, we're reading LDP that would. How many apprentices do we expect over and above the 21st Century School programme to be employed during those massive constructions across the county?
We do go to schools in terms of the careers fairs that we attend, so the schools are aware of it, but it doesn't mean to say you don't have to keep selling the programme to them and the opportunities within construction. I mean, we have to be honest, it's a hard trade, but I do think there's huge opportunities for them, really. In terms of builds, we basically work on one apprentice per £1 million spend, and that's roughly how it works. So there are opportunities there. In terms of how we let contracts going forward, particularly in terms of housing, if we can write community benefits into the actual way that we let the schemes, it will make a big difference in terms of the number of apprentices we can take on. Yes, yeah. So it's something that we write into the agreements in terms of SUSCAP, which is the South East Wales public sector sort of letting of contracts. An apprentice is detailed in there, but we've still got to raise the profile of the scheme.
Kelly, would you like to come in?
Yeah, thank you very much, Leader. I think it's a great point because as well as looking at the construction sector and some of the opportunities we've got coming up now with the brand new LDP, lots and lots of housing sites coming to Monmouthshire, working with partners like Melon, which has access to the government's Our Bed Energy scheme, which is massive for us, is over £30 million. We've really got to take advantage of some of those opportunities. And again, apprentice can achieve so much, but we've got to make sure our other policy mechanisms are aligned. So Cass mentioned social clauses, for example. So it's great we've got those sites coming through the local development plan, but we've got to have those social clauses in those agreements for development so we can prioritise local labour, so we can begin to align the ducks. And yes, we're doing that. And I think one of the great choices we made was actually when Dave Bevan left the authority and therefore gave up his place as a board member on Apprentice, we actually replaced him with Rob O'Dwyer, who leads obviously our property services and our procurement function internally. So increasingly we are bringing those two things together and we are trying to maximise those opportunities. But there's always more that we can do. We're mindful of that and we're onto it.
Thank you, Cal. Councillor Howarth.
Yes, thank you, Leader. I could talk all day about this, as having a young son who's entering into an apprenticeship not very long from now. There are complications with this, and I need to touch on them with Kath, because the main thing we do have is with our young people, and it's not just young people entering apprenticeships, but first of all, there's a minimum wage. 17, they can have an apprenticeship, but the cost of probably going down to Bridgend to the college, it won't even cover the fuel to get down there. And then at 18, they get a bit of an increase. Coleg Gwent in Cross Keys, which is the main hub for a lot of training for these kinds of apprenticeships to start with, where they need to do probably a couple of years at school. We have a place over here, and the cutbacks is unbelievable. They're cutting and cutting and cutting. And no criticism on the Welsh Government or anything, but something's got to give here, because our young people need some training in this kind of industry. And we can talk about IT and all them skills, but at the end of the day, you know, unless you have a diploma or a degree or whatever in IT, you're not going to go to the next level. There's no chance. And the investment in what we need to be putting into our young people is quite a lot. I just want to ask Kath whether we have done anything with Costains, because Costains have a programme now. Led to believe there may be 24 apprenticeships being offered, and I think they're going to work out a Gilwan there on machinery with the company which will be given the contract. We don't know who it is at the moment. There is a massive opportunity here, but the main thing for me is when you have an apprenticeship, and it's quite right, it says in the report there, some people actually, it's not what they're suited to. And I think that's why the college side of it is if they stick the college bit, it means then they can go to the next level. But there's nothing worse than a young person just wasting 2 or 3 years doing something they do not want to do. So I think pushing younger children at that young age is making sure they have the qualifications, but making sure then when they do get to the 17s and 18s, when they're coming up to a different level of wanting to work and finding what they want to do in life, I think that's the most important thing. And my criticism is we, not us, but we as a nation, as Wales, we're cutting and cutting and cutting opportunities for young people in this kind of industry. And it is a shame. So I don't know where these children are going to go from Abergavenny, from Monmouth, from Caldicot or Chepstow. Where the heck they're going to go to get that initial training so they can get a foot on the ladder, I don't know. Because Cross Keys, do the exercise. They are closing departments this September. The courses won't be there for our young people. Where they're going to go, I don't know. So it's something we seriously have to look at. Sorry about that.
No, very good sound points. Kath, do you want to respond?
Yes, just to say that Costains are actually on the advisory panel. So we do speak to them on a very regular basis, and we have got very good relationships actually with our industry colleagues. I think it's also an opportunity when we talk about perhaps, if construction isn't quite the right thing, that we're also now offering technical apprenticeships. So if somebody, for example, decided they didn't want to go on the tools but actually wanted to go, for example, into QSing or engineering, we're actually looking to see how we can offer those opportunities as well. So for us, it's really being as broad as we can with as many opportunities as possible, but also things like how we do get our apprentices from A to B is a big issue, particularly in Monmouthshire. In terms of minimum wage, we do pay over the minimum wage. But needless to say, it is sort of within the CITB arrangements. But yeah, I mean, I feel really passionate about Apprentice, and I just think we've only just really started at the bottom of the foothills here, and it's got a long way to go. And I also just wanted to echo Kelly's comments, really, that the fact that Rob O'Dwyer is actually a co-director has made a significant difference already, because he's in the trade, he understands the industry, and he's really just moved us quite quickly up to a different level. So yeah, I did say watch this space. Really, it's going to get better, but it's all about making it work for all the right reasons.
Leader, may I just point on the issue with the campuses then, i.e. Cross Keys, which is probably one of the best campuses we have within our area and probably South East Wales. Where are we with them at the moment? Because our children will be leaving school now. There's lots of young people over here, and on a Thursday, I think they come from all the schools over here. Where they're going to go, because there's lots of courses being closed down and there's going to be no opportunities for them. So there is I mean, it is important that they have a foot on the ladder, and if they don't want to do further education, that if they have that skill, they should be given that opportunity.
We do realise that we have mentors that are within the colleges, you know, helping our apprentices along the way, but also we do realise there's a real need to work a lot closer to the colleges, and we have actually invited them onto the board now. But it's making sure we get the right person within that college and making sure we get the right college as well. And it's been a bit of a long struggle, really, because of the issues that they've had in terms of funding. It is a very moving feast right now in terms of apprenticeships as well, and the CITB and their future. So for us, it's just making sure that we're staying ahead of the game, really, and looking at where the opportunities are going to be going forward, not just at the moment, but where we're going to be in 5 years, 10 years' time. And that's where we're focusing with our business strategy at the moment.
Okay, thanks, Kath. Well, we wish the company well, and it's, again, exciting times for its future, I know. So that's good, and it's got to be good for our young people. So the recommendation then is for Cabinet to receive the contents of the report, which provides an overview of the activities to date and details of future plans. I think we've recognised all of that. All in favour of receiving those? Thank you very much. Thank you, Kath. On to the model pay policy for schools. Councillor Murphy.
Yes, thank you, Leader. This, as you can see, is introducing the revised model pay policy for schools, which provides a framework for making decisions on teachers' pay. Obviously, it's been developed to comply with current legislation and the requirements of the School Teachers' Pay and Conditions document. So the recommendation here is that the revised model pay policy for schools be accepted and commended to governing bodies for adoption as soon as possible. And to that end, all the schools in South East Wales will be circulated together on this, so that we can make sure that we get uniformity. It's been through JAG, has a full support of the trade unions, head teachers, and the Education Achievement Service. So it's there for anybody who wants to raise any questions. Sally Thomas is here, who I'm sure is more than capable of fielding any queries that anybody has.
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor Murphy. Just to explain to those that are watching in what JAG is, it's Joint Advisory Group of unions and employers, and we come together to discuss areas of policy which affect staff, school, and these sorts of things. Thank you for that. Anybody? Straightforward report. Anybody? No? Councillor Petruni? No? Councillor Howarth? No? Okay, thank you very much. The recommendation then is that the revised model pay policy for schools be accepted and commended to governing bodies for adoption as soon as possible. All in favour? Thank you. On then to the adoption of an LA policy on the use of reasonable force. Councillor Hackett-Payne.
Thank you very much, Leader. This policy is designed to support those dealing with disruptive behaviour, thereby enabling school staff to reduce the risk to other staff and to young people. The updated local authority policy will ensure that all schools are aware of their responsibilities under the guidance, and that if there are pupils requiring support and intervention on a regular basis, then staff will have access to appropriate advice, training and support, and that in instances of any physical intervention will be recorded and reported to the local authority on a regular basis. It ensures that staff have a safe, supportive and carefully monitored environment in which they work. The policy provides a clear framework for schools. I'd like to point out that any use of physical intervention is obviously the last resource, and it isn't used on a very regular basis at all within our schools. But I think it's reassuring to know that if that was the case, there is a proper policy there, and it deals with clear boundaries on how that's reported and training for staff as well. So the author of the report, Richard Austin, is here today, and I'm sure if there are any questions, he will be more than happy to answer them.
Thank you, Liz. And obviously we have to have these sorts of reports in place. We need updated guidance, and is guidance, and that's protection for young people, protection for staff, and to make sure that everything is carried out in a consistent manner when it has to be. As you said, of course, we always hope that we don't have to use this sort of intervention, but now and again there may be a need for it to have to be implemented. Straightforward again. Councillors, anything you wish to add? Yeah, Councillor Murphy.
Yes, just to add, Leader, that this is indeed a far-reaching and far more comprehensive guide than previous guidance that we've had. Again, it's been through the advisory group with the unions and received the support there.
Okay, anybody else? Councillor Petruni? No? Councillor Howarth?
May I just ask Richard, on the basis through you, Leader, the costs which will be incurred by the schools if they do send people on courses, reference to the 4-day, the 1 day, the half-a-day refresher, 2-day course, 1-day refresher. Have we had any uptake on this as reference to schools, and are they working together, let's say? Because I know we're doing the clustering at the moment, aren't we, in reference to some of the areas. Will we be using that model then for clustering? Let's say one individual or two individuals will handle 4 or 5 schools?
Thanks, Councillor Howarth. That's a good question. When we deliver this training, we like to deliver it on a whole school basis in response to need, because different schools have different needs. So each programme's tailor-made to each individual school's requests. We are looking at cluster-based arrangements in relation to staff who might have joined the school. So we've covered them in terms of a generic course and some generic provision, so that they will be trained, and then they can realign themselves when the whole school has training in future. We started costing this out from last year, because we were, as a local authority, paying for myself and 3 other people to be trained as instructors, paying for the books and everything for the courses. There was a cost to local authority, so we've had uptake from schools, and these costs are there to ensure that the training is delivered in a cost-neutral manner to the local authority. And the uptake, as I said, has been there from schools. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Richard. Right, we'll move straight to the recommendation then, and it's recommended that the policy on the use of reasonable force is adopted by the local authority. All in favour of that? Thank you very much. Okay, we'll move on to the last item of today, one you're familiar with, Welsh Church Fund Working Group recommendations, and they are laid out before us in 2.1, the schedule of recommendations and those items which have been deferred for further information. As usual, there for comment. Members, anybody wish to add? Councillor Petruni? Councillor Howarth?
May I just ask, Leader, We did benchmark the grant from the Welsh Church Fund at £500. We have put this up now, have we? I'm just trying to remind you, because we have lots of applications coming in for a large amount of money, but we all know the cut-off point. I thought it was £500, but is it £1,000 now?
If we seek some guidance, because it was at one time and then it was reduced, Phil?
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Simon. It was recommended that be reduced to £500 because the amount of money earned by the Welsh Church Fund available for distribution is dropping. I don't know why these grants have been recommended by the committee, but at the end of the day, it is up to them to decide what grants they're going to give. We did give guidance, though, that it should be dropped to £500. I don't know whether Joy's got anything to add to that, but I wouldn't have thought so.
Could I just come in there, Leader? Because it isn't fair on them who've applied for grants, and we set that benchmark at 500 because there were some, I can remember that clearly. Now other ones have come in there and they've been given the higher sums. I just need to be clear what the guidelines are. And if somebody is applying for 2,000 and the benchmark's 500, that should be clear on the application form.
I haven't seen lately an application form just to remind myself what the criteria is. It may be just useful for that to be circulated so that members can advise their communities accordingly. So if there is a slightly bigger pot on offer at the moment, that's great, but it's at the discretion of the committee in the end. But just to review the terms of reference, perhaps, or their criteria would be handy.
I can just add to that. I believe I'm right in saying that this year's allocation hasn't been used up anyway. So I'm guessing, but I think that might be a reason for giving larger amounts out at the end. But we'd need to see clarification on that.
Okay, but if there is advice on, so that we often as local members get asked about Welsh Church Fund grants, and it'd be useful if we've got the latest information to give people who are applying. So if we could circulate that if somebody can arrange for that to be done, that would be good, and just so we're right in up to date with the right picture. Okay, so the recommendations there, then we resolve that we recommend, well, it says we resolve that the following grants be awarded. Well, as Cabinet, are we happy to agree that recommendation? All in favour? That's it. Thank you very much. And that brings us to the end of today's agenda. And thank you very much for your attendance, and look forward to seeing you all at the next Cabinet. And I know it's a busy couple of days for many of us, but more so for you as staff who may be involved in the general election and everything which is happening there. Can I thank you in advance for all your work and late nights? I'm sure it's going to be a long day tomorrow. Thank you very much, everyone.